Hey, what's going on, Melissa?
Hello, hello, hello. How
We're
are you
back
doing
at it
today?
again. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We're back at it again. Life moves fast, and we're already in 2026. Exciting, right?
It is exciting. New year, new goals, new adventures.
That's all you got?
That's all I got. I thought I had something else, and I was like, nothing else comes to mind.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into it today. The last couple of weeks we've been talking about identity. We've talked about confidence. We talked about the imposter syndrome. And today I want to kind of dive into the conversation about alignment. Once identity becomes clear, people often expect things to feel easier. In reality, that's usually when tension shows up, not because something's wrong, but because alignment is being tested. And so I'm going to start off by asking you the question, once identity gets clear, why does life often feel more uncomfortable instead of easier?
Because our brain is resorting to what it knows and where it's always been. So knowing, and our nervous system is as well. So that being said, it's where is it that I'm trying to go back to where I want to be? I go back to where I used to be. I go back to where I want to be. It's knowing that, hey, a dog knows it has to pee when it's a puppy. And where do you say, hey, come back to this potty pad and pee right here? Well, the dog's brain is still going to go on your carpet. It's still going to go everywhere else because that's what it's familiar and that's what it knows. And it has to train itself and just keep going back to whatever it is that they're trying to align to. Alignment piece is what is going to be harder for individuals because that takes consistency. So when you think about the alignment piece, even with high performers, they're going to go back to what's known for them. So why do you think that high performers ignore it or say, nope, that's not possible. I can't do it?
Are we talking about alignment or are we talking about identity?
Alignment within your identity, the identity that you want to become. So when we talked about identity, we talked about who do you want to be and who are you living to be. Well, the alignment piece comes in when you're not living to be that person that you want to be.
Well, alignment to me in that context is simple. There's going to be tension because as you've already identified, you're holding on to old beliefs and old value systems that create tension. Alignment is once you identify who you need to be in that particular situation and you begin to grow or evolve into that, tension shows up because you're breaking away. I think that sometimes alignment can come when people's blueprint of where they expect themselves to be doesn't match where they're at. And I think for high performer in particular, they may feel like I'm go, 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 go. And then they wake up and realize that where they're at and what they've accomplished doesn't match the life that they wanted. In many cases, we sort to achieve certain things and we think that by being a certain way, it will help us feel better. But I think alignment also has something to do with fulfillment. You can achieve a lot of things and stop and pause and wake up and feel unfulfilled. And I think that happens as you evolve in life and as you grow as an individual in whatever occupation you're in. I know plenty of people, in particular moms and dads, their identity are tied to their children. And then they wake up one day and their child's 18 and out the door, or they're on their own, and their purpose is not there the way it was at one time. And now they're looking at themselves in the mirror saying, well, who am I? And that creates some uncomfortability because where they're at, they've done all these things. They're looking at it saying, okay, I've done all these things. Why am I, or why am I feeling empty inside? So I think it's not just high performers, it's people in general that if we don't evaluate our situations or positions in life and we don't constantly ask ourselves that question, we run into challenges that kind of create discomfort for us.
So if I hear what you're saying, you're attributing alignment to also fulfillment.
In certain cases, yes. I'm not saying it's absolute, but what I am saying to you is that whenever there's misalignment, the source of misalignment can be contributed to or attributed to a lack of connection, a disconnect. You see it with high performers or CEOs of a company. They may have achieved a lot and they wake up and realize that I missed all of my child's significant events in their lives, or I didn't take time out to pay attention to that when I was going through this process, and they realized that everything I worked for and tried to achieve is great, but it didn't give me the fulfillment or the connection or didn't give me the relationship that I wanted with my children, or I forgot to be more present in these conditions or circumstances that really are important to me, and yet I forgot the importance of them. So I don't necessarily think it's tied to fulfillment, although I do believe fulfillment has something to do with it. I think that the biggest challenge for a lot of people, for many people, is that the connection as to what's really important in terms of your goals. And I think discomfort or uncomfortability comes when where you're at and where you thought you should be does not align. So when I think about that in your practice, what are the early signs you notice when someone is out of alignment, even when things look fine?
I think that it has to do with your values. And you said earlier what's important. And think about our value system. So, what we live by. Each person has their own things that are important to them, and some are more important than others. Some take career, like you said, and they place that first. Well, when you have misalignment, now you're questioning, well, I didn't spend enough time with my family. So, when I think of that, I think that that person has a misalignment within themselves on what's truly important to themselves. That they thought their career was number one. Yet when they sit back and reflect, it's really their family and time. So now how do they change the balance or the harmony of how much time they spend on each to be able to be in alignment of what they believe and what they truly want to live by and who the person that they want to be. So when I hear you say that, I hear a lot about our value system. It's where are you not only misalignment within who you are and who you want to be, but that's connected to what's important to you in life at that moment in time. Now, if you feel like you're a parent and you missed out on your child's life, where did you take a pause and sit back and decide, you know what? I only have this one time with my kids. I'm going to spend some more time. So I, I see more of a definition of what's important to you at that time. So, what's another way of thinking about misalignment and how do we question what's important to us at the moment to identify and clarify who we want to be?
It's a great question. A couple of things kind of come to my mind. One is misalignment can be created when you're inconsistent or when you tell yourself a story and realize that the story you're telling yourself may not be the reality of the situation. We may say that we want to lose 20 pounds, and at the same time, we may never get off the couch or put down the junk food or eat healthy. That's misalignment. We may say that we want to become successful in business, and yet we may never study a business book or pick up a business book. So when we think about misalignment, we're asking, in my mind, I'm not looking at does my actions match what I want? And when it doesn't, what do I need to do to correct myself? I do think there's a lot of awareness involved in that process. When I coach people, I try to help them understand the significance of aligning your actions to your outcomes that you desire. And identity becomes a part of that conversation because in order for you to achieve this, you first have to see yourself becoming that because that identity will pull you forward and bring you back into alignment with your actions and your attitudes and your behaviors. I think when you ignore those three pieces, it's a potential to leave you stuck or stagnated in your situation. And this and the situations that I've had to happen with myself, coming from the conditions that I came out of a young child, I had to make a decision that I could not fail. So who did I need to do? Who do I need to become to successfully navigate the military structure and protocols? And then once I decided that that's what I wanted to achieve, then whatever I had to become and whatever I needed to change, I leaned into that rather than trying to fight it. In many cases, people fight or resist the opportunity to grow or develop because they feel like they're going to sacrifice too much. But my question is, what is misalignment causing you? In many cases, it's people's happiness. In many cases, it's their inability to see themselves differently. And I don't think anyone's lazy. I just don't think they have the tools to make that change conscientiously. I think then the human nature is to resist change. So for me, I look at it as how can I encourage someone to make that shift without showing them directly? So it's to influence their decisions by showing them a different way of looking at the same situation. Um, why does alignment force decisions people have been unconsciously avoiding?
The unconscious. They're trying to consciously make a decision when their subconscious is not in alignment. Their subconscious is telling them, no, stop. that's dangerous. No, stop, that's dangerous. Yeah, their conscious mind is saying, nope, I just need to power through. So a question that I can actually think about is, when is somebody powering through versus truly trying to be in alignment with who they are? The power through is not sustainable because they're forcing it and they don't believe it unconsciously. So when your conscious mind, your subconscious mind are constantly at a battle, you have to slow down long enough to get them on the same page. Because if we don't get them on the same page, I don't believe that you can truly cause alignment within ourselves.
Yeah, when you say get on the same page, help me understand what you mean by that because as I see it, it's about acceptance, right? I think the idea is that once you identify who you want to be, you will lean into that and you focus on being those things. I don't think that you can help but to change. I think that's the key with it is that you've made a decision to lean into something for whatever reasons you have, your why. And by you leaning into that decision, you give yourself the ability to make those changes in your life to achieve those goals. So when you say aligning your subconscious to your conscious, what do you mean by that?
What if you say you want to be a person that's wealthy, yet you were raised to believe that you're supposed to struggle to make your money? Your subconscious, your mind is going to be in that belief system unless you go into it and change that belief system that you have. So if you're trying to force this alignment of who you really want to be, yet you didn't acknowledge on who you actually are and what you believe and change that belief system, your brain's gonna bring you back to where it was. Because yes, I can say this is pretty on the outside, yet on the inside, I'm falling apart. And I keep falling apart over and over again because I have something that's holding me back that I haven't acknowledged that I may not know is even there. It's what I call a limiting belief. What is it that's deep down ingrained into our system that we may not realize is actually holding us back? We have to bring that to the surface in order to create the true identity of who you are. And when I say you bring it to the surface, is acknowledging it for serving you, however it happened, whatever that situation may have been, whatever that belief someone gave you. I explain it like this. A lot of people say that we're supposed to be women, have children, get married, happily ever after, this whole persona. But now we're realizing that we can be married in separate houses. We don't have to get married. You can just be with somebody and be happy. But I may feel like guilty inside or feel like I'm not living up to somebody else's expectations because I was raised to believe have children, get married, happily ever after. Yet that's not the world that I live in. That's not what makes me happy. So where is it that I was holding on to a belief that my parents told me about that I didn't realize that was affecting me, but now it's affecting every relationship I have because I feel like that is my ultimate goal when I don't really want that as my goal. So where is it that we don't realize that there's something within us that needs to be talked about?
Well, I think that many people or some people go through life and they lack consciousness or awareness. So I don't think it's intentional. I think it's unintentional. But when I hear you talk about this particular subject, what I heard you say is that an individual can go through life completely unaware that their unconscious mind or subconscious mind is holding them back, even if they say they want something, but if they don't believe it's true or they don't necessarily examine the unconscious, they can't achieve that. Is that correct?
It'll be difficult. I'm not going to say can't. It will be very difficult for them because their brain is going to bring them back to that safety circle of what's known and what's comfortable. So even getting that past that uncomfortable is where is it that I'm creating the same cycle? You may create a new habit and do it for a couple of years, yet 3 years, 5 years from now, I'm back in the same position. Why am I broke again? Yet you never stop to find out what your true belief system is and where it came from in order to understand how to move past that and decide what you truly want to believe and how you truly want to live.
Yeah. So let me throw this back to you a different way. You're a mind power coach, correct?
I am.
So, from the mind power coaching frameworks, how does one achieve breakthrough? If I'm not aware of it, I don't know it exists, I'm running into a wall. What's a strategy that I can use to overcome that block?
One of the strategies that I do with individuals is what I call a running parachute. It's through a series of questions. They're identifying and going back and doing a timeline exercise. It's an active imagination. You're closing your eyes, you're imagining who you were back then when you're 3 years old, you're imagining who you are 25 years from now, and you're actually having a discussion with yourself. And I'm just guiding you with questions for you to answer, for you to come to that's where it came from. And as a mind power coach, the first time we do it, you may think it came from when you were 7 years old, let's say. First time I remember being scared. Let's think about the first time I remember being scared. I think it was like 7. Now, the more and more you do it, if you see that a cycle is coming about, you'll come now 5 years from now and say, okay, well, I was scared. Oh man, I think I was scared when I was 3 years old. Another memory would come up. And then we would take that memory and we would understand what that memory's purpose was. And then we take the feelings away from that memory. And then we allow ourselves to give ourselves grace for being in that situation. And then we now took the power away from that situation by taking the emotion away and allowing it to just be where it is. So it's through a series of active imagination meditations that I do with the clients in order for them to acknowledge it. Then we can move on. Then we can replace the old with the new because now we accepted the old for what it was. But it comes down to acceptance first of what that old was and the purpose of it. And like you said, you talk about your childhood and you talk about back when you were in the military. But what portions of that are so ingrained into you and that you've done for so long that it's normal routine for you that you don't even see it yourself?
Yeah, I think most of what we do is coming from a subconscious mind, which is stored memory, and it's running in the background unbeknownst to us. I do believe that we think we're making decisions based upon our conscientious mind, but we both know as mind power coaches that 95% of your decisions come from your subconscious mind because it's constantly running in the background. And so it's a great question. What I often try to understand when I'm working with clients is how do I propel them forward with strategies and techniques that put them in position to achieve or succeed. Breakthrough is one. Are there other techniques out there that you use to help people move forward?
Of course. There's a lot of different techniques that I utilize, and some of them is identifying who they actually are, identifying who they want to be, identifying what their values are and what they want to live by, and understanding what our past experiences are and which ones we want to carry forward and which ones we want to leave where they are, which ones are still serving us, which ones are not serving us. So I do a lot of different, some of them are crazy techniques, some of them are fun, and some are pattern interruptions to break the pattern. How do you break a pattern? Is through a process of a pattern interruption or a breakthrough or different meditations, or whether it's a awake meditation or a sleep meditation. It's having them understand and acknowledge and identify what that is for themselves versus me telling them. So when you see it and you work through with clients, what are some of your techniques that you use?
Again, I start with the identity. I mean, again, that's my go-to. I do work with breakthrough. As a matter of fact, I've undergone in the last 2 or 3 months, various breakthrough sessions, well, two to be exact. And I've also, for myself, I've been hypnotized to kind of help alleviate the challenges. I do the mind power meditation. So for me, I share that with my clients in a help or an effort to help them unlock those challenges that they have. I know sometimes people are resistant, but I think that when people embrace the concepts and allow the coaching to take place, positive things happen. I think about how people change when they've embraced what you're teaching them or what you're showing them or what you're helping them work through. I know for me, the noticeable change is a glow on their face. They feel lighter. Their conversation and tone is different. What do you see?
I say the same because your whole body language is going to change. Only their words change. Sometimes I hear them actually speaking positively about themselves or about situations and looking for the positive in the situation. I do see change of color and everything in their face as well. I've heard you mention breakthrough a couple of times. And just for clarification, what is it do you mean by breakthrough?
A breakthrough is a process that you earlier described. It's going under a hypnotic state, closing your eyes and having someone walk you back in your history and then finding those key components or those challenging areas that were meant for you to learn. And then helping you step outside of that through timeline therapy and allowing you to alleviate those challenges from a positive perspective then bringing you back to forward so that those challenges or discomfort areas dissipate and that you get the lesson for that particular situation at that moment. These are tools that I think many people are unaware that exist, but they're very powerful tools that will help an individual overcome misalignment or overcome those challenges that they think they're stuck in. And to your point, which is really interesting about what you said was that you can want something and run and work as hard as you can, not realizing that your subconscious mind is a block that prevents you from getting there. And without the right tools, techniques, and strategies, you can use a lot of energy trying to achieve something when being with a mind power coach or a coach in period may help you overcome that a lot sooner, a lot quicker, and with less effort.
And it's definitely it's not may, they will help you get there a lot sooner, a lot quicker, and a lot less effort. And I am that client. So now I'm a coach, but I've been that client for so long that now it's where is it that I had a hard time. I remember doing it for the first time and doing a breakthrough and doing this meditation. And I literally asked my coach and I was like, "You want me to do what?" I am not sitting back and thinking about when I can't think of it. I truly was like blank in my mind, completely, completely blank. Couldn't get anything to come from it. So we took it for what it was. Then we did it again a few weeks later, and then it got a little bit easier because I allowed myself to let go. And part of it was control. I had so much control over my thoughts and what is this crazy thing that this person wants me to do. She wants me to think about when I was 25 years ahead of me and then 5 years behind me. I can't think about what I did yesterday. So it's not as easy as we say it is. It's about the intentionality that's going behind it and you truly leaning in over and over again and how much you want it and how bad you want it.
It's also a very emotional process. I remember both times it was very draining, but it's a process that I feel like is very much necessary, especially if you find yourself stuck. And what I realized coming out of it was that immediately after I was able to gather my faculties and realize where I was at, I immediately felt aligned to my purpose and to what I was trying to achieve. And I think in many cases we could individuals or I benefit from learning what my challenge is, but more importantly, what do I want? And I think the breakthrough allows me to achieve that outcome a lot faster with a lot less effort. But again, I'm not sure people know that these type of techniques or trainings actually exist, but it's out there. And I would encourage anyone who's struggling with any type of situation to get a coach, especially a mind power coach, to kind of help them through that process and to work with them on those type of issues. Because trust and believe it does work. Alignment doesn't demand immediate change. It asks for honesty first. And once you see what's out of sync, it's hard to ignore. And I will leave it at that because I think that's an appropriate way to end this podcast. So I
Absolutely.
appreciate your time today. I appreciate you being on, and I look forward to talking to you next week.
You too. Talk to you later, Richard.